Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 21st of July, 2023. My name is Kerry Holzman, which most of you in the chat room already know all of this information, but if you're new here, welcome in. Today, I've got a pretty interesting little mini PC to show you, and it's very different in many ways that you may not realize. Obviously, it works as a NAS, but not in the way you might be thinking. So we're going to talk about that. And again, I want to give a little shout out to, we lost a member of the original member of the hacking community yesterday, or that night before, 2 nights ago. Kevin Mitnick died at the age of 59 of pancreatic cancer. He'd been battling that for over a year anyway, and I wasn't aware of that, and I was quite shocked to learn of his passing. I was very fortunate to be able to meet him, and he was a super cool dude, and wish we had an opportunity to do more, to work together more. However, they say he passed peacefully in his sleep, so I suppose that's the best you can hope for in that scenario, and what a surprise. I had no idea he was even sick, so just wanted to acknowledge a man's life here in a minute, which seems unjust, but if you don't know who Kevin Mitnick is, there were a number of movies, such as War Games. Remember, it was sort of based on his activities, although he denies ever hacking into NORAD. But anyway, it's a fascinating story if you don't know who he is. And he ended up, when he got out of jail, he ended up becoming a white hat hacker, meaning that he was helping companies from getting hacked instead of hacking them, and became very successful. He has a book out telling his story, and yeah, he will be missed. He was one of a kind and original. Onward and upward with other things today. I want to say thank you for the super chat contributions that came in before the show. Sarge Tech with a $5 contribution says, "This is my subscribers only mode." That means, I suppose we've been doing all these live videos that are public with what we call subscriber mode only. And what that means is if you want to participate in the chat room, which we very much encourage, you must first subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, you just hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. And this has done a very good job at keeping out the bots and much of the trolls. I think that has been a solution I wish I had thought of much earlier, but it does appear to be very effective. That's why it's on. Paul O'Brien contributes €5. He says, "Hi, Kerry and Marlena. Can you thank your sister Linda for me? The mouse pad is fantastic. The quality of the material and the design is cool." Yes, I will tell her. I've forwarded your message on to her. If we go over to my screen share here, I'll tell you what he's talking about for those of you who didn't catch me talking about this sort of as an afterthought in some previous shows. Let me do this right in the beginning and say, if you go to kerryholzman.com, this is the merch store. My sister runs the merch store. Okay, I have very little interaction with it other than, she gives me updates from time to time. And these are items that we sell that are shippable all over the world. And she just had new mouse pads made. She designs these herself. She finds a manufacturer, and it meets with her quality standards. This is the new design. She's ordered 50 of those, and when those 50 are sold, well, she might order more, or she might change up the design again. So they kind of become like collector's items if you're a fan of the channel, so you can get all the different designs. But they work as a monitor cleaner. You can actually use the material to wipe the monitor, your computer screen. And they're the same material and the same manufacturer as the previous generation with previous design. You see they're $20, and that includes free shipping to anywhere in the world. And there's some other items that you might be interested in. She's doing these Zippo lighters. I had this idea, something that would last a long time and be useful. And it occurs to me, people have Zippo lighters. They can pass them on in generations. So it's a little expensive. I realize a Zippo lighter is like 20 bucks, but these are basically engraved by hand. So no two are alike. And even if she uses the same design, it won't be exactly right. It won't be exactly the same, rather, as another one with the same design because they're all done by hand. As a result, they're very limited in edition. This is a one of one. Okay, this is only the first one she's ever done. She's got about a dozen more to work on as time permits, and I've encouraged her to be creative. So you'll see $55. Remember, that has the custom etching and includes shipping anywhere in the world at that price. So we're not nickel and diming you with sales tax, shipping and handling and all the other nonsense. So that is a one of one. When that one's gone, then she'll have no other choice but to get back to work and etch another one. Anyway, just a shout out there for the CarrieHolzman.com merch store. And of course, there's some paper coasters and shrink coasters and other items that you can check out, stickers and such. And if you have ideas for merch, be sure and let us know what you think. We're not going to carry, we don't really want to carry any t-shirts unless we can find a manufacturer who can handle the transaction and do the shipping all by themselves, because it's way too labor intensive and expensive to order shirts in various colors and sizes, have them shipped to us. Then we have to sort through a large order, figure out who ordered what, and then get individual packaging for somebody who orders one shirt or somebody who orders 5, and then address them by hand, and then take them to the post office to have them weighed depending on where they're going in the world. It's a ton of work. So having a manufacturer that can make a quality shirt and will handle the transaction and the shipping and customer service is our stumbling point on that. But anything other than clothing, if you have ideas, let us know. And who knows, maybe we could turn your idea into a merch store item. Colin Hunt contributes £5. Thank you, Colin. Colin's been a member over 12 months now. Victor Callender with £2 says hello from London. Well, thanks for joining us, Victor. Welcome in, my friend. Ron Varnish says hello. Dwayne Blackwelder said he has to attend a funeral today. Well, I will give you an excuse. I'll give you your pass. You're good. I'm sorry to hear that you've lost a friend, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here in the chat in the near future. Planet Cryos contributes $5 in Super Chat. Planet Cryos says, good evening, Carrie and chat. What would you think about gaming mouse pads? That's what I use. I would buy one of those. Well, what are you defining as a gaming mouse pad? What's different about it? Because I have some ideas, but I don't know if what you and I are thinking about is the same thing. Hello to Mats Olof joining us from Sweden. See John Science Rocks, Gary Tatum, Andy Kane, Ben Laird joining us from Scotland. Douglas Burchell, Avery Ramsdorf, LRCX, Sherry McFarland. Scott says hello. Luke Greenia says hello. And Scotty says hello. Positive Gene and Piney Woods says hello. And a bunch of others whose names I would spend the next 20 minutes reading, so don't be offended if I didn't shout you out. Hopefully everybody gets a shout out throughout at some point at the show, or if you hang out long enough in the next show after. And of course, if you ask a question in the chat that I read aloud, that's another way. If you want to hear your name said, all you got to do is participate. There's Marco joining us all the way from Italy, who says ciao. Welcome in, Marco. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Of course he's doing well. He's in Italy. We're on day 21 of temperatures of a minimum 110 degrees. So breaking records here in Phoenix in that regard. Consecutive days in a row. I think today's going to be 22. And I think we will go through the entire month of July without having a break from every day hitting 110 or above. That's what it looks like it's going to happen. So air conditioners working overtime, and let's just hope it doesn't break, or I'm going to be in a world of hurt. Planet Rios with a $2 super chat says, He has a gaming mouse pad that's 35 inches by 16 inches. So the problem with that could be the potential cost of shipping. I'll mention it to my sister and see what her thoughts are. Marco says he's doing well, adding Italian food on me, getting chubby, fat and happy. There's our friend Frankie B with his $4.99 super chat. He says, hello all, keep up the good work. Thank you, Frankie. And Rystar Man with that $10 super chat says, man, this work thing is a real drag. Here's a late fee submission. Right on. Thank you, Rystar Man. So, what do I have? This is a very generic looking, very plain box, isn't it? This company reached out to me. I have never heard of this company. In fact, let me bring up the Amazon webpage for this product before we open the box. If I can figure out how to use OBS. Here we go. So the Aoostar mini PC, it's an AMD Ryzen 5 5500U. That's a 6-core, 12-thread processor that can hit up to 4 gigahertz in frequency. It has 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM with 512 gig NVMe SSD. It has Windows 11 on it. And this is a 3-in-1 mini PC. It acts as a software router, a network attached storage with 2 bays, and of course it's a mini PC. So it does those 3 functions: mini PC, software router, NAS, with some caveats. It has Wi-Fi 6 and dual 2.5 gig LAN. Well, it would have to be a software router. You need at least 2 LAN ports, one in and one out. There's a $60 coupon that brings this price to an incredible $339. That seems too cheap, doesn't it? Well, let's talk about it. Look at the pictures here. As you can see, it's a pretty simple white looking box on the inside as it is on the outside. This is what the PC looks like. And the top of it has 2 drive sleds that you can use if you want to. You don't have to. It's got that internal 512 gig solid state drive in there. And you can put 2 drives in there and set them up as network attached storage. It does support 3 displays at the same time, 3 DisplayPort outs. And basically, in the video notes below this video, I have a link to this Amazon page, which, of course, if you make a purchase, I make a small commission from. Legally obligated to tell you that. I don't know why. It should be pretty obvious, but the commission I make is very, very low. It's like $1 or $2. All this information here, I've more or less just copied and pasted into the video description. I haven't really corrected it much except for obvious errors. There are some grammatical errors and a few spelling errors. This is a machine that comes from China where they don't speak English natively. So, we give them some consideration on that. It's not that they're dumb. Some people might be like, well, whoever wrote this is dumb. No. They're very smart people. They just don't, English is not it's not their first language. So in any event, let's talk about what this is, and is it good or is it bad? I mean, first of all, right out of the gate, what do you guys think of this idea? Now, we'll talk a few things about, when we talk about NAS, you probably think of Synology or QNAP or Asus or other NAS manufacturers. This, when I set up a Synology, it has its own operating system. It's not Windows. It's Synology's own operating system. Same with QNAP and same with Asus. They have their own operating systems that are specifically designed for NAS and NAS-like functions. This, on the other hand, is really just a Windows 11 computer with 2 drive bays that I'm guessing, and I haven't done anything with this. This has all been saved for this live unscripted video so we can experience this together. We'll figure it out together. But I'm guessing you can put 2 drives in it. They do not have to be NAS drives. Part of the thing about network attached storage drives, they do cost a bit more because they have special technology where they're bumped right up against each other and their vibrations and magnetic actions can affect the next drive over along with the accumulated heat. As you can tell from the picture, these drives are on opposite sides, so they don't have that proximity issue of being so close together. And because it's a Windows computer, essentially what you'd be doing is just turning on file sharing. And I'm guessing, and I hope I'm right, that you can go into the BIOS and set those two drives up as a RAID 0, where you take two volumes, stripe them together as one large volume for performance, which I think would be foolish because you're not going to see any performance benefit over a network. Or what it should have is a RAID 1 configuration, with RAID 1 being whatever one drive does, the other drive mirrors. So if there is a drive failure, you have an exact copy up to the millisecond of whatever was going on the other drive. Sometimes we would use RAID 0 when we needed larger capacity, but that's not really an issue today with 20, 22 terabyte drives available. It doesn't really make any sense unless you've got old drives laying around. And I don't know. I just think if it's network attached storage, I wouldn't be using old drives laying around. But, you do you. So essentially what we've got here is a mini PC with built-in solid state Ryzen 5, very common configuration found in mini PCs. But they've added those two drive sleds, which you can use. As I mentioned, you can just use one drive sled if you want to, or ideally you put the two drives in of matching capacity, ideally same make and model for the best compatibility and fewer headaches, and just use regular desktop drives. You could use NAS drives if you wanted to. As I mentioned, the NAS drives generally do cost more. And you're going to just configure file sharing in Windows, and you're going to set up your NAS that way. It doesn't have any of the NAS features like video camera, security camera recording, and all the apps you can download for file backups and FTP and setting up your own web server and all the other stuff, Kubernetes, containers, all the stuff a real NAS. So when we're throwing this term NAS around, it's a little bit fast and loose because yes, you are creating storage that you can share on the network. So it is network attached storage. In the truest sense, it's matching that definition. But it is not what you would consider, or what I would consider, I can't speak for you, what I would consider a true NAS. And true NAS is a whole nother piece of software. Now, as for the software router, what does that even mean? Well, essentially what it means is it's got two network ports on the back of it, two Ethernet ports. Any computer that has two Ethernet ports can be used as a software router. And what that means is you could download a piece of software, some freeware router software, which would be an operating system designed to turn your computer or mini PC into a router. And we call it a soft router or a software router. I think those require too much maintenance and too much time to set up to be worth my time. But essentially, you would not be using Windows. You would reload or partition off the drive to set it up to be booting from a router operating system. And those are free, Linux-based, pfSense, other stuff like that. And they certainly don't require this much power. Speaking of this much power, most NAS devices from Synology, QNAP, Asus would not have a processor anywhere near as capable as this processor, which kind of makes sense that you could use this as your workstation while at the same time being a file share point for everybody else in your office or in your building as the file server, which would have no impact on the user of the computer unless you need to reboot. If you're rebooting, you're going to kick everybody off the server. I'm calling it a server, but you're going to kick everybody off the file share until the machine comes back up again. So if they were working on something, they would lose it. This is true with a regular NAS as well, obviously, if it's rebooting. The thing is with a Windows operating system, you're going to get those Windows updates regularly, as well as driver updates that may need a reboot. And if that's happening during off hours, late hours, that's fine. It's not interruptive, or disruptive. With Synology and other NAS manufacturers, that can all be automated to occur in the wee hours of the morning on days that your office is closed. You wouldn't even know it was happening. So this is a little more hands-on. It's also priced a little cheaper than a typical 2-drive network attached storage device. So you can see I'm on the fence about this one because it's both very cool and very capable, and also a little bit more time needed to set it up and maintain it. So it really depends on if it fits your budget, if it fits your needs. And you could also set this up as a RAID 0 and RAID 1 just to have expanded storage on your own mini PC. Who says you have to share it? It's fully optional. You can configure it however your heart desires. A few other contributions have come in. So let me say thank you to Charles Vandola with a $2 super chat, and a thank you to Andy Windridge, who contributes €11. He says, hello, Kerry, just a small contribution to the channel. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Charles. And Mark Gaines joining us from Northern Ireland with a £5 contribution, says, good evening, Kerry. Phoenix was on the news here about the heat. Also, check your email. Well, thank you, Mark. Sláinte, my friend. And yeah, we'll check the email here and we'll get to unboxing this. Oh, it looks like I've missed a couple of things. Oh, it's all advertising. I should have never signed up for that Pizza Hut loyalty club. Mark Gaines sends an Amazon gift card for $25. Right on. Thank you, Mark. And I'll delete that Pizza Hut email. All right. Well, should we get to unboxing? Should I get Camera Girl out here and put her to work? I said, should I get Camera Girl out here and put her to work? You get my most sincere
undying devotion.
My most sincere admiration and respect.
I want your undying devotion.
Is that light off? Did the battery charge? Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna leave it plugged in?
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll go over to, what is that called? Close-up.
Okay, that's right.
You ready?
Yeah.
Come on over. And here she comes. So is the color really better on this camera? What do you guys in the chat room think? Color difference between that camera and my main camera. I've been sort of fixated on that. Sony camera I've been looking at is $2,800, and I'd hate to spend it only to end up with pretty much the same quality. Should I be bothered, or do you guys think I'm wasting money? Is this image that far superior that I should replace the Canon camera with the Sony?
Everybody say yes.
You want me to spend money? Thomas Backenstow says it looks great. Luke Greenia says he loves this camera. Yeah, that's this camera. See, when I get a different Sony camera, I don't know if it, I mean, Sony's color technology is just, it works out very, very well for my needs. If we were doing this outdoors in the daylight, I'm sure any camera would be great. Edgar says, buy the camera. Peter says this is sharper. John Williams says the color is great. Everybody's saying, does anybody not like this camera? Maybe that's what I should have asked. This camera, we tried using this as a main camera, but it shuts down because it overheats. So what I need is a camcorder for these long live videos. And Sony hasn't made a new camcorder in like 4 years. And the one they're selling that I'm interested in is, I think, a Z90V, and it's $2,800 on Amazon, despite the fact that it's been out 4 years or longer. And I'm hoping it has similar image quality. I'm not sure though, but at least with Amazon, if I don't like it, I can send it back. So in any event, I appreciate the feedback on that subject and still kicking the idea around. I don't know why I haven't tried a Sony camcorder before. You'd think this thought would have occurred to me years ago before I got the big Canon. So the big Canon sits in the other room because it needs some color fine tuning. And I just, every time I start with it, I get all excited and I start messing with settings and I end up swinging so far the wrong way. I just want to put it back to default and then put it back before I ruin it. But he says he sees a yellow hue. Who's that? Put a water cooler on the camera, says Douglas. Delman says it's a little sad not to use the other's camera potential. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Canon camera should be far superior if I had the time to really configure it. Nick Poverman suggests the Nikon Z30 for live streams, but it can't be a DSLR. These DSLRs, when shooting, will likely overheat. So because my live streams go 2 or 3 hours, we need a camera that can withstand being powered up, for that period of time without shutting down and overheating. Also, the Sony cameras, every time we power them down, the vlogging cameras, which is what we're using here, the lens retracts and closes. Versus a camcorder, you set your focus and you set your framing, and regardless if you turn the camcorder on or off, that lens never moves position, and that's good for continuity. So just a few things that people don't think about when you see a lot of YouTube content creators mentioning their favorite vlogging camera. They're not making 2 or 3 hour long videos. So, and there's a lot of people that go outdoors, and of course these cameras look great outdoors. So for my needs, they're pretty unique. I've not found another YouTube channel that really, I'll tell you, I made a mistake and I watched the studio scenes of Marquez Brownlee, is that his name? And Marquez has,
MKBHD.
yeah, MKBHD YouTube channel, has multiple Red cameras, a company called Red. He's got a robotic camera arm. He's got 2 of them that cost over $250,000 a piece. And the cameras he's got multiple Red. He must have 2 or 3 dozen Red cameras, and those you have to buy the lenses separately. Everything's a la carte on those. All very, very expensive. So I was drooling watching his setup, and I was also very impressed with his knowledge of the camera equipment and lighting, as well as his knowledge on smartphones and technology. He just eats this stuff up, and it's very natural for him. And yeah, he understands the aperture, and he understands all of the ins and outs of photography and cinematography, which is impressive to me because that's a whole different career set. It's a whole different skill set. And anyway, it's a pretty interesting video. Got me thinking. Shouldn't have watched it. That's what happened. My friend Ron said his dog got a clean bill of health and he only weighs 125 pounds. It's catching up to me.
It's more than me.
Charles thinks this camera's color is good, but maybe the camera's a little too bright. That the camera is moving around also changes perception. Oh, that's a good point since this is handheld. And speaking of which, I probably should get some work done before Camera Girl's arms get tired. Probably halfway there. Oh, I don't have to cut the tape. I already cut the tape. Chris Smith joins us and says hello. Welcome in, Chris. All right, well, we have the mini PC. We have a little thank you card here. No idea what that says. Oh, if you have any questions. All right. And then they've included this for everybody to enjoy. And we've got, I guess, power supply in the box. It's packaged as such. That is a big mini PC. It's a nice little, they put it in kind of this gauzy. Okay, so that's what you get in the box. Now, if we look, you'll see it's pretty plain. We have a power button right there. Nothing on the left or the right. And come around back and we have a typical what you might expect from any mini PC and ports. 2 USB 2s, 2 USB 3s, DisplayPort and HDMI port, USB Type-C, and 2 LAN ports and our power plug barrel jack style connector there. What is this up here? Oh, that's a speaker output. On the bottom, fans. Lots of fan. Oh, this should be interesting to open this up and look at it. Because there's no seam on this, which would imply this would slide out, be like a cylinder. Looking at the top, you've got a pull handle. We pull that up. It's got a couple magnets up here that keep it closed tight. And the center part is just a vent. And on your left and on your right, have the drive sleds. Okay, which are optional. You do not have to use them. As I mentioned, Do not have to use NAS drives in this because technically it's not a NAS. It's actually just a mini PC with two 3.5-inch drive bays. I'm going to guess the screws to open this up are underneath the rubber feet. I'm guessing. Oh, that's neat. Here's a really great idea. Can I just say, it looks like this side is glued down and this side is just a plug that you can lift up. So you can put the screwdriver in there and access the screws without having to remove the feet. See, the other side's not coming up. I just got lucky. That is really a clever idea. I appreciate that. Let's open it up before we turn it on. I don't want to get too involved and then have to take it apart. So let's take it apart right now and see what it looks like, because I am curious. And since we've got camera girl close at hand here, we'll put her to work with those close-ups and see how they've designed this. I have to imagine it's probably just like any other mini PC with some kind of cabling connecting it to the two 3.5-inch drive bays, but I'm still curious how they engineered that. Is there a color selection other than white? No, it's you can have any color you want as long as the color you want is white. Okay, now what do I do to get it out? There doesn't seem to be anything. Oh.
Oh, hey.
Okay,
Haha.
that works.
Nice.
That looks like a standard 120 millimeter base fan. It's drawing air in this side and pushing the air up, which is ideal so that it cools those drives off. That makes perfect sense. I would have done it the same way. And you can kind of get a look down in there. See how that's put together. It looks to me like something holding this in, or does it just come out? I suppose you'd have to take these drive bays out, I would think. Not sure, but. And, oh, look at here. We have 4 screws up at the top. That's very easy to get to. 1. Oh, those are fast and easy to take out. 2. They're machine screws, which I like, so you don't have to worry about stripping them out. Over tighten them. They're more or less impossible to over tighten. Let's just say if you put that much effort into tightening them, you get what you deserve, or you're not going to do it accidentally. All right, 3, 4, 5, and 6 right there. They're all the same, so we don't have to worry about putting them back precisely. And this is the top piece. And we can take a look down in there. See how that's built.
Huh.
Right?
That's
And then what do you think? Does it, it's
that
got
is
to pull out from the bottom? Don't force anything. Just a little bit of wiggle and pull just to get it, the I/O ports and such past anything that might be holding us up. I think I've got all the screws out of it. Pull this apart. Yeah, so I grab the edges and pull it. Then that comes out, and here is what your PC looks like. How is that for different? See, I'm always trying to bring you guys something different here on the channel that you're not going to see anywhere else, or very rarely. We're in dual channel mode. There's DDR4 3200 speed. There's our NVMe drive. And look, we have space for another M.2 drive here. Whether that's NVMe or SATA, I don't know yet. There's our Wi-Fi card, which is very easily swappable, and we can upgrade the RAM. We could replace these with 32 gigs each if we wanted to, for a total of 64 gigs of RAM. Now, if you look to this side, you see this connector. If I turn this way, you'll see that is your SATA connector for your 3.5-inch drive, and there should be a matching one on the other side right there. If you're wondering what this black wire with tape on it, that is your Wi-Fi antenna, and you'll have that black wire and the gray wire for your, you always have two antennas, right? And there's the black and gray wires right there, with the black wire going towards the center, just for future reference. There's our CMOS battery, and this fan only has 2 wires, which suggests to me that it's just always on with no speed control. You'd need at least a 3rd wire to have the fan speed up or slow down as needed. I think, as things have changed. We've got our power button right there. We can see the top of the heatsink, come around this side, and we can see our ports. And underneath this big heatsink here is our CPU, our AMD Ryzen 5. Overall, a pretty simple design. It's very clever. What do you think of that?
Very, very clever.
Right?
That is unique.
It's the rotisserie computer.
Nah.
All right, now let's see if I can put it all back together. So the power switch is here. Pretty simple little power switch. You can see that could be easily broken when these parts break, and these plastic parts, when they age, that is a failure point I would be concerned about. But I suppose you could always just take the button off and stick a finger in there, if and when that day should ever come. On the other hand, if you're using it as a NAS, you're probably going to power it on and leave it on. Okay, so how did this go back in? All right, open ports are on that side. Down. Reaching some resistance here. What's that?
Pull it apart.
Yeah, but I got to pull apart the other side of it though. So maybe if I go like this. Oh, I can see it's the power switch where they've melted the plastic. It's right up against that. So that's the part we have to get around, and we don't want to damage that. Once you're past it, it's very smooth the rest of the way in. And you can see I'm not quite all the way there yet, and that's how I can tell is our I/O ports are not lining up yet. That means it still has to go a little bit further. There it is. It looks like it came out either. Maybe it's an optical illusion. It looks like it's wider on the bottom, but it looks like it could come out from the top. But right when it hits that spot, it gets a little tough. So if you're going to open this, do be patient and be careful with it. Okay, so now I can put the back on. Now, does it matter if it goes on this way or this way? I think it does matter. It's got these little pins, if you notice the plastic nubs that are sticking up, and they're going to go into these holes right beside where the screws go down, and that helps you get it aligned. I always appreciate when companies go through the extra effort of doing that. A little curious. It will go on either way. So it doesn't want to sit down this way. Let's turn it 180 degrees. I guess that's where the magnets are attaching to, those metal plates. Can't really tell, is it? So I have to pull it apart a little bit, and then it sits right down in there. And if I turn it 180 degrees, will it still go in, or does it not? It goes in either way. Huh, does it matter? I think it can go in either way. Holes line up, the pins fit. I wasn't paying enough attention. I think it's the same either way. So the only thing that I'm looking at is I've got a little hook here, and I've got a little catch down here, but it looks like it's pretty universal. because basically the way you put this on will determine the orientation of the lid here when we put this on. So does it really matter if we put it on the other way that we have to turn the lid this way? As long as it all sits correctly, that's all that should matter. So we can now put these 6 screws back in. Screw doesn't want to go down there. Standing easier this way. So it looks like I don't have it fully, I don't have the motherboard fully locked in correctly because it's, well, no, you know what? This way it's not quite lining up. Turn it back the way I had it. No, that doesn't line up either. Oh, but it does help if I seat it all the way down.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to make a difference. Now it looks like they're going to reach.
And into place.
Yeah. Or not. Maybe not.
Hmm?
It's hard for me to remember which way this came out. Again, I don't think it really matters. I do feel like something's hanging us up. I feel like this side is higher for some reason, so I just want to flip it around one last time just to see if it sits down any better. Because I was just resting it, I wasn't pushing it down. Oh, now the holes are lining up perfectly, so maybe it does matter.
Is there an arrow?
There are 2 arrows. One points this way on the side closest to you, and the other one points the other way. And those are the release, they're pointing to the release mechanisms on the drive trays. So that doesn't, I'm not so certain it matters which direction this goes in, if I'm honest. It looks like it'll work either way, which is fine by me. I don't have to spin these screws for half an hour. This side just doesn't want to seem to go down. If you look very carefully with the camera, you can see the little plastic tab. It's not seated into the hole. So I'm a little curious about that because the hole is underneath it. It's just not quite lined up perfectly. There it is. So apparently that's what I'm hearing clicking are those little plastic tabs. And those help keep everything aligned. So putting in the screw should be effortless. If you're struggling with it, you're doing it wrong. Don't use brute force on computer equipment. It should all be smooth and cooperative. Some things like inserting a video card or RAM can require a little more force, a little more strength. But things like screws, I would be respectful of.
You gonna put drives in there?
Yeah, we should put some drives in it, but first I want to turn it on and see what it's like. So for now, we'll put the drive sleds in there. Which way does this go? Does it go this way? I think that's the way. Again, I can't remember which way these came out either. If they went in this way or they went in this way. Oh, I see. The arrows align, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
There's an arrow on this, and an arrow there,
Mm-hmm.
and an arrow up here, and an arrow up above. Good to know. Then this piece here looks like we've got a little catch, little hook right there. So again, whether that's on the right or the left, in other words, if we had shifted that 180 degrees, should not make a difference either way. And then we could put the bottom back on. And once again, does the bottom care if it's this way or this way or that way? I would think it either goes on this way or the Aoostar logo is exactly the, see that? There's the glue on the bottom of the foot. That's how the foot is designed. Very clever. Or did the Aoostar face this direction? And does it even matter? It appears, if we look at the bottom of this, we've got these two holes on each side of the screws that go on the sides that align with these posts, these plastic posts right here and right here. So it's really just a question of, once again, if it goes on 180 degrees different, and whether or not that even matters. I don't think it matters. And this is the kind of stuff you want to pay attention to when you're taking it apart so you don't end up in the position I'm in. I'm not exactly sure. It looks like it wants to go this way, though. Hard to tell where I'm aligning it. It's not seating properly. Yeah, everything, as far as I can tell, looks like either way. 180 degrees, forward or backward, seems like it's happy either way. So in this case, we've got the Aoostar logo. It's kind of on an angle, kind of pointing towards a corner. So I think they put the sticker up straight, but nobody's going to see it. So turn down the OCD for this one. Artichoke. Easy to get into. Overall, I'm impressed with the design of it. It's very logical, makes very good use of space without cramping or overcrowding. Sometimes they put form over function. In this case, it looks like they got a nice balance. So we're off to the races here. Okay. Obviously, before we tightened it, we should make sure all of our ports lined up. They do. In this box, that was in the box, that came in a box, that was shipped in a box, is our power brick. I like that the power brick uses a standard PC power cable because I've got a lot of those. And is that all we get? Oh, we get a little bit more stuff. What rolled out of here? Oh, the piece of cardboard that came from that hole. We've got our power cable, an HDMI cable, and screws for installing our drives. All right. No waste. Here's our AC adapter. Shows our model number, input voltage. It outputs at 19.5 volts with 5.12 amps. Okay. Well, let's get it hooked up, see what it'll do. You ready for a break?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. And I'm going to step around, hook some cables up. So, power, HDMI. So many cables. That'll go right there. And I'm going to leave the internet not plugged in it for our first boot up and setup. We need a keyboard and a mouse, and I need to power it. So I like when they use these standard PC power cables because I have so many of them. That design hasn't, plug hasn't changed since I started in this career in 1991. It's the same plug we've been using pretty much since the debut of the IBM personal computer. So that's good, or it's not good, depending on whether or not you're a fan of progress. It hasn't progressed, but maybe because we're still using the same voltage source. This is our dongle for the Wi-Fi keyboard and mouse, which I will plug in. And let me get rid of this little plastic bag here. And make sure these are turned on. So I did that without realizing I did it. You ready to turn this on? Let's go to HDMI input, and I'll put myself in a corner. First, I'll keep it full screen while you see me hit the power button. You'll see that glows blue. Ooh, I feel air coming out of the top of it. And now I'm going to put myself in the corner while we wait for it to boot. It's perfectly silent. I was worried about that fan only having 2 wires, but I hear nothing. Of course, on the other hand, my air conditioner is running overtime, so might be something to do. Just curious if I can put this on either direction. Doesn't seem to want to go on that way. To go this way. Let's go through the setup together. Let me get rid of camera 1 here for a minute. I need to go full screen over here so all those eyes can see. Guess I could turn the close-up camera. Full screen for Carrie, so I can see it the way you guys get to see it. You guys get a better view of the screen than I do. Okay, there's my mouse. English, yes. United States, yes. US keyboard, yes. Alternative language keyboard, no. End user license agreement, you have no choice. You must agree. We'll put the username of user and leave the password blank so we get right up to the desktop without any hesitation or delay. Waiting for a password, and that way we just bypass that. Obviously, when you set up a share in Windows, whether it's any version of Windows, you can decide if you want it open or you want it password protected, and only those with the password then could access the share. Versus with a NAS, you could set up authorized users, although I guess you could also set up authorized users with Windows sharing settings. It's just a completely different process. So I guess while that's working, I can put camera 1 back on. And let's see what you guys are saying in the chat room. Jason Wyrick joins us. Welcome in, Jason. Tom Long wants to know what shape of mini PC will they come out with next? A ball? I'd be afraid someone would kick it. Talk about rebooting. BH Ringer wants to know, what's a web developer's favorite tea? Hey, camera girl, do you know what a web developer's favorite tea is? URL Gray. Earl Grey. See what I did there? No, of course not. Nick Caffrey says hello. Welcome in. Well, I'm watching that. I can go ahead and plug the internet in now, and we can grab our Windows 11 updates, because that's going to take a few minutes. So once we get past the setup screen, that way we don't have to be forced into creating an online account, which, you know, it's fine if you have one, but I'm selling computers to customers, and I don't want to log into my personal account for obvious reasons. Very unprofessional to do that. So we always create a local account, and Microsoft's making that more and more difficult. And as you can see, the way that Aoostar has configured this, we did not have to run the bypass NRO command. Sometimes we have to do that, depending on the installation of how the system integrator has decided to configure the OS. All right, so let me go full screen one more time over here. Screen for Carrie, and we'll go over to Windows Update. All right, over here and over to the bottom, and we're off to the races on that. And we'll go ahead and turn this on. And I also want to adjust the power settings. I don't want this thing going to sleep. If you have this set up as a file share, you definitely do not want the computer to go to sleep when you're not using it, or the file share will become unavailable to people. But you can have the monitor turn off, and make sure the computer does not sleep. So I would turn this to never. And as far as turning off the display, that's at your discretion. For today, I'm going to set it at 3 hours so it doesn't turn off on us while we're waiting for things to install. Okay, so while that's downloading and doing its thing, I guess I can get rid of this stupid icon down here. So I'll type in search history. There we go. Search permissions and history. Scroll down where it says more settings. When I flip this to off, you'll see this down here turns off. There it goes. Just a pet peeve of mine. It's like a billboard advertising something. And it's my desktop, not Microsoft's. And I'll decide what's on my desktop. Thank you very much. Okay, so while we're downloading these updates, let me go back to the chat room and pick up where I left off. Shane Perkins says, it reminds me of a 5G home router. Greg M says, I wonder how much airflow is going to happen out the top with all the plastic blocking the airflow. You can definitely feel it. It's apparently adequate. I think the answer to your question is it's enough. It's specifically designed to have 2 3.5-inch desktop drives in there. It wouldn't behoove you to put Western Digital Black or high performance drives there because your internet, or your network connection, I should say, is going to be your bottleneck. You'd just be wasting money. And those obviously would generate more heat. But just the fact that the hard drives themselves aren't going to be too concerned about heat, like a solid state drive would be more concerned about that. However, it's all been engineered and designed and tested for this functionality. So the airflow it has is the airflow the manufacturer has, through testing, determined is required. They don't want to put overkill in there. Just adds more cost to the unit. Is it the air purifier computer? It does kind of look like an air purifier, doesn't it? We'll have to wait and see if Dyson makes one. Sarge Tech says it's listed as a Linux operating system, Windows 10 Pro or Windows 11. So basically, if you wanted to use it as a soft router, you would use a Linux-based operating system, such as I mentioned. And of course, if it runs Windows 11, it runs Windows 10, so that kind of goes without saying. So overall, those are the operating systems where you're not going to have any driver issues. In other words, if you put any of those operating systems on that were just mentioned, having drivers for all the devices on the hardware enclosed is not a problem. If you put a different operating system on, you're on your own as far as finding any drivers or creating them yourself in that regard. So I'll pick install all here. That get to work. Oh, we can also check for driver updates too. Go down to advanced options, optional updates. There's only one Windows update, 3 driver updates. We'll grab all of them and download and install. Do it all at once. Okay, so while that is running, let me go back over to the chat and pick up where I left off here. Mike McRae says hello from Aberdeen, Scotland, where it's a nice and cool 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Frankie B says this reminds me of Apple's Airport Extreme router. See that for sure. Andy thinks it looks like a copy of an old MacBook Pro, or not MacBook, but a Mac Pro trash can. I can kind of see that. It's whisper quiet, and if I turn it around this way, you know, it's not a light show. You just have that blue power light. Other than that, that's all there is. Curious why one side of this sticks up higher than the, or is it? Oh, maybe it's not. Not that that really matters. It has no function, no bearing on functionality of the machine. Yeah, there's a little tab here and a little hook on this side. So that's clearly this yellow handle is going to go towards the front of the machine, unless of course, you unscrew this and turn it 180 degrees. So it looks like it works either direction. So I like that. It's easy going. Yeah. Gary says it seems kind of limited as a router with only 2 ports. Well, it's not going to have a built-in switch, right? So a lot of times when you think of a router, you're thinking of a consumer-based router. Most enterprise routers are just going to be one in, one out. And then you run that through a network switch. So even if it had ports on the back for, you know, essentially a built-in switch, there's never enough. And, you know, we're trying to keep the thing small. Most people aren't going to use it as a router anyway. And most people already have a router. So anybody that would use a soft router, generally speaking, are going to buy a network appliance. Those network appliances usually and quite typically only have 2 network ports on them. Again, the fewer ports they put on them, the smaller and less expensive they can be. There are devices that have more than 2 ports on them for network appliances. However, this is a very common configuration for a software router. So they don't know how many ports you're going to need. And more than likely, no matter how many they give you, it's not going to be enough. You're buying a switch one way or the other. If you wanted, for example, Wi-Fi, you'd have to add an access point. It's not going to work Wi-Fi as a router, just so you know. Mr. IoT Tech said this could be perfect to put Proxmox VE on it. Sure. Yeah, if you want to do home automation, things like that, and you're familiar with Proxmox. I've never used it myself, but I know enough about it to know that I'm not missing out on anything that I'm trying to accomplish here. But plenty of YouTube videos and other sources of information using Google on Proxmox if you want to learn more about it. Dan Nilsson says he loves it. No RGB. Don't worry, you can always add RGB to it. You could just buy some fairy lights and run them around like a Christmas tree if you want. Good old waste of money. Peter says you could drill holes on the side for airflow. Well, then you'd be second guessing the engineers who designed it, and that's probably not going to work out well for you. In fact, you'd probably impede the airflow if you were to do that. There's a reason why the holes are existing only at the top, and that's to ensure that the airflow moves only in one direction, that it's going to pull the air in from outside from the bottom, push it up through the PC, around all the components, CPU, cooler, and if you put drives in there, it'll go around those drives, blow those drives, run that cool air by them, and then out the top. Any air escaping from the sides will be lost cooling for anything above that. So I would not second guess the thermal design by the manufacturer. Now, if you are having heat-related issues, I would advise you to come on in here in the chat and talk to us about it. I'm sure we can find a better solution than a caveman hitting it with a drill. That's just ridiculous. Now, I'm going to grab another cold Gatorade. This one's gotten warm on me. And if you guys have any questions, this is a good time to ask while we're waiting for these updates to download and install. And hopefully this won't take too long. And then I've got a couple of desktop hard drives I'm going to put in there. We'll format them. We'll also take a look at the BIOS and see if we can configure RAID in the BIOS. Because if we can't, that's going to be a showstopper for me. Nick C says, hello, chat from California. Hey, welcome in, Nick. Terrell Cockerham says, I wonder if they installed software like Drive Bender. I don't think they're including any software whatsoever. You're just getting an operating system. And then you would configure the RAID array, ideally through the BIOS, as you would any normal, the systems that I build always have, well, not always, but they quite frequently have a RAID option in the BIOS. I'm anticipating that's what this will have, but we'll cross that bridge here in a moment. That'll be coming up. I'll thank the folks at Aoostar for sending the unit to us for review. They are not paying for this video, and I did not buy this computer. Sent solely for the purpose of reviewing it. No money has exchanged hands. No contracts have been signed. I am not obligated in any way to say anything or to avoid saying anything. There's no publication due date, and they do not know what I'm going to say because this is live and it's unscripted. And quite frankly, I did not try this out. I wanted to keep everything authentic, raw, and genuine here on the live video, so you get my real reaction. And any misunderstandings that I might have when I'm reviewing something. At this point, being in business professionally over 30 years, if I'm not understanding it, then it's badly designed. So far, we're off to the races. Everything's very obvious and very logical from my perspective as a technician. And I'm fully expecting there to be some RAID options in the BIOS. Is this PC going to change your gateway address? If you were to use this as a router, then you would need to replace Windows 11, or you'd have to boot to like a flash drive or another, like let's say we put another M.2 in there, and we can change which drive we want to boot from. But we cannot simultaneously have Windows 11 and also use it as a software router at the same time that I'm aware of. The only time it would change your gateway would be if you're changing your modem. Your modem is your gateway, and regardless of how many routers or what routers you use, they will always be using your modem to communicate out to the internet, hence the term gateway. So the answer is no, it does not change your gateway regardless. Captain Blinsky says, do your UPS drivers have air conditioning in their delivery trucks? No, they do not. I am not aware of any delivery service that has air conditioning in their trucks except for DHL, where they drive the minivans. The delivery vehicles themselves generally do not have AC. So it depends on the vehicle. When you see those big trucks from Amazon, they usually don't have AC. They might have a fan. But Amazon's been testing out some delivery trucks made by Rivian. And we've got quite a few of those, and I think those have air conditioning. I know the back of the truck is the worst part to be in. But UPS trucks and United States Postal Service trucks, and as far as I know, the FedEx trucks, unless, again, they're the little minivans or cargo vans, those would be the exception. But the big UPS trucks, the big brown trucks, no AC. You'll notice because they leave the doors open. If you see the driver closing the door when they get in, it's probably because they have AC. At least in the July weather here in the States anyway. Patrick said, what is the plan for this mini PC NAS after the review? I like how you think I have a plan. I don't have a plan yet. Kind of making it up as I go along, and no idea. Why do you ask? Douglas says USPS are supposed to be getting AC soon. It's my understanding that the only time a delivery driver for UPS or USPS gets AC is when their vehicle gets replaced. Those vehicles may not be replaced for many, many years. So it's not like overnight, everybody gets a vehicle with AC in it. As the vehicles retire their end of service, then the vehicle that gets replaced with should have AC in it. And so slowly over the course of the next couple of years, will the entire fleet have AC? That's the way I understand it anyway. It's one thing that concerns me about anybody that orders medications via the mail. And I don't know why this has not been brought up to Congress or, I mean, it seems to me, they always tell you to store your medications in a cool, dry place. And when these trucks are not air conditioned and the warehouses may not be air conditioned in the back where all the product is, or, the shipments are, I wonder how it affects the potency or the efficacy of the medication under the heat, especially if it's been in the mail delivery driver's vehicle all day and you're one of the last stops, unless your mail arrives very early in the morning. Quite often I get packages. The packages are very hot on the outside and even hotter on what's packaged inside. So yeah, I would not personally order my medications over the mail in the summertime for that very reason. And I'm surprised they're allowed to. Douglas Burchell says insulin has to be kept refrigerated. Gil Garcia says he gets his medications delivered through the mail. It doesn't affect the potency of the medication. I'm not quite sure you can tell me that, Gil, unless you can scientifically show me the potency of the medication. What you're telling me is you're getting enough medicine that's working, that it's not negatively impacting you. That doesn't mean that the medication's not working to its full ability. It's just you're reaching a point where you're like, you can feel the medicine kicking in. But I'd love to see the science on it. And of course, some medications are more, what's the word? Some medications are more sensitive to heat than others. So it's not like just because you have medication that's not affected by it, it doesn't apply to all medicine. Mark Jones wants to know, since when did the government care about people's health? Here in the US, yeah, I see what you're saying. Patrick said it'd be a nice birthday gift to myself in a couple of weeks. Well, happy birthday to you, Patrick, and I hope you enjoy the free PC that you were sent from the channel. Very few people got one of those. And of course, we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to receive a PC from the channel here in the USA before we have members receiving 2 or 3. I don't want to show any favoritism that way. But the good news is these are very inexpensive. There's a coupon code at Amazon, and certainly would be something that's very, very affordable, especially even if you just use it as a mini PC and you don't even use the 2 drives as network attached storage. They are they're available if you want to upgrade to it. You can put a couple drives in it. Maybe you have some drives laying around. Patrick wants to buy it from me. Oh, I don't sell the units that I get for free. I have a problem with that ethically. So I would suggest if you want one, order it from Amazon. Then you have, first of all, faster shipping, and the shipping's free. Cost me probably $50 to mail this. Secondly, you have the ability to return it. If for any reason you don't like it, Amazon has that 30-day return window where it costs you nothing to return it. So I appreciate the thought, but no, I'm not looking to. I won't be selling any of the units that are sent to me for free. Now, if I bought a unit for review and I don't want it anymore, I would sell it. But one of the problems that I can run into is if you have a problem with a unit that you bought from me that was sent to me for free, you might find out when you contact the company for warranty that they have no record of this unit being sold. You have no way to. They're going to say, we don't know what this is. It's our product, but where's your sales receipt? And so they likely wouldn't support any warranty because it's a review unit and was never intended to be sold to an end user. So, if you never have any warranty issues, but you do need to keep that in mind as well. The folks over at Beeling sent me an email recently that they've redesigned the bottom plate on the GTR 7 with more vents. and it helps the cooling. And they said, we wanted you to know, we'll send you a new plate. I said, great, send it to me. And they said, okay, what's your serial number? And what color is your unit? I sent them the serial number. And I told them it's green. And they said, okay, can you take a picture of the barcode for us? Okay, so I take a picture of the bottom of the unit so they can read the barcode and I send it. They go, okay, now what color is the unit? Well, I already told them it was green. And then when you look at the picture, you can see in the picture that it's green. And they said, do you have a receipt for this? We need a receipt. I said, no, I don't have a receipt because I'm a YouTube reviewer and the content, the unit was sent to me for review. That's why there's no purchase receipt. So, okay, no problem. We'll get it out to you. And apparently they've got a new bottom plate for the GTR 6 as well. I'm not aware of any overheating issues. I don't know why they did this. The GTR 7 still has the video issue that, as far as I know, hasn't been resolved. So it seems like they're fixing a problem that I'm not having and ignoring a problem I am having. What are you going to do? But again, the unit was sent for review, so I don't really have any place to complain. If they want to send the bottom, that's fine. Keeping in mind that the bottom contains your serial number and all your information on your unit. So I don't know if they include a sticker or they place the sticker on, but you can't peel that sticker off the unit you've got now, put it on the new bottom. So I'm wondering if that's why they wanted a photo of it, so they can reprint the sticker so it matches. And you don't have to send the old bottom back. You can just toss it in the trash. And I thought that'll make a good follow-up review to see if this makes any difference. And they're supposed to be sending that to me. I should probably go ahead and order one for the GTR 6 as well, just because there must be a reason for it. It's costing them money to send these out for free. Tom Long said if medications need to stay cold, they should be mailed in or packed with dry ice. That's all well and good, except depending on how long it's been in the truck, it's about 50-50 for me when I get packages packed in dry ice or in ice packs, that it's all melted by the time I get it. So we never know how long it's staying in the truck and how hot it is in that truck and how far it's shipping from. So I do not order any like meat sticks, things I like to munch on in the summertime through the mail, like from Vienna beef in Chicago. I'll save that for later in the fall through the spring. So this time of year, I just won't order food-related product, generally speaking. And even things like shampoos and things of that nature, vitamins, they can be physically hot to the touch by the time I bring them in. And that's the other problem. If the mailman's putting your mail in a mailbox that's here in Arizona, upwards of 200 degrees inside that mailbox, and you're at work all day, well, that's just baking for hours and hours until you get the mail. It just continues to potentially damage the item that's in the mailbox. Likewise, if they put a package at the front door, at least the front door is shaded, so that it does get some heat relief, since the sun doesn't set where the front door is. The sun rises where the front door is. And so by the time the mail delivery comes, the sun's either already straight up or on its way down. Of course, the sun doesn't go down here now until after 8 o'clock at night. I think it's dusk around, I don't know, a few minutes before 8 o'clock in the evening. So it's a little weird to wake up and it's already 105 degrees outside. Crazy. Chris Garrett said the dry ice would melt. It does evaporate quite rapidly. The hotter, it's like anything cold. The hotter you keep the environment, the faster that dry ice will evaporate. All right, looks like we're doing another reboot here. John Williams said, I'm heading out for dinner. My wife said she's buying dinner for my birthday, which is tomorrow. Have a good night and a nice weekend. Happy birthday, John Williams. I hope everybody else is happy birthday to John Williams. Hope you have a wonderful dinner. Sarge Tech said, the dry ice would gas out. Yeah, I guess that would be a proper term, wouldn't it? Sometimes I gas out, but that's not temperature related. Art Jones says he has the Asus mini PC and it's great. Yeah, Asus is generally known for making very good quality products. We reviewed the Asus PL63 and ended up giving that unit to Bill Wickens. And I think it's keeping him busy. It was a nice upgrade for him and should keep him busy and keep him current for at least the next 8 years. It was decked out very, very well. He paid for the upgrades to 64 gigs of RAM and 2 terabyte Samsung 970 EVO. Speaking of which, that's back on sale again today over at Amazon. There's a couple of things I wanted to draw your attention to at Amazon. One is the Western Digital 4 terabyte SN850X is at $269 today. That's, wait a minute. Is that right? Did I say that right? $269? Seems like a really good price. Let's go over to Amazon here. Let's look together. I'll start Windows Update again, and then I'll go to Amazon. One thing at a time, right? Sure. Thing at a time. Full screen for me so I can see the desktop the way you guys at home get to see it. You'd think I'd have the best picture of anybody, right? Quite the opposite. All right, we're going to check for updates here. And then while it's loading, I'm going to go over to Amazon and I'll type in 4 terabyte SN850X. Now, when these Western Digital drives are at $299 or below, I think it's a really good deal. So the fact that the SSD prices are still coming down, happy about that. Check this out. $269. That reads up to 7,300 megabytes per second as a Gen 4 NVMe drive made by Western Digital. Fantastic. The Samsung 970 EVO . 2 terabyte plus drive, check this out, is now $96.36. So that's about $3 and change less than the cheapest price I've seen it at, without any coupon code or anything. That's just the everyday price. Free shipping is included. And that blew me away. Even 64 gigs of that memory I like to use on these mini PCs. Check this out, 64, if I could type, 64 gigs of SODIMM DDR4. Look at this. It's 2 sticks, 32 gigs each for $94, just a penny shy of $94. They've been around $97, $98, so that, look, when you're buying 6 or 8 of these kits at a time, it's darn near getting ready to get me one for free. That's 3200 speed, and I haven't had any of these go bad yet. I've been very, very happy with product from Team Group, including their solid state drives. And of course, the Team Group, let's look at 4 terabyte NVMe. Beijing has their unit here for $220, which reads very similarly up to 7300 like the Western Digital. Silicon Power's got a 4 terabyte for $159, but look at the read speeds. They're not very good for Gen 4. And we should see one in here from Team. Here's one from Levin. This will be a very slow drive. $145 for 4 terabytes? Are you kidding me? Let me see what the read speeds are on it. Up to 3,000. Oh, that's very, very slow. At least in Kerry's world it is. Silicon Power's got a unit with a heatsink on it for $204. That's 4 terabytes. And the Team Group 4 terabyte drive, the one you see me use a lot of, $185.99. I have seen this down to, I think Newegg had it on sale for $160. I love how affordable this is becoming. AdLink was also a very good drive that I tested, but again, you're at 5,000 megabytes per second, which is a good 50% slower than what a Gen 4, well, if this is doing 5,000 and we can do 7,300, the difference 2,300 is almost half of 5,000. That's why I'm saying it's almost half of the performance. So you are getting a bit what you pay for. NetTac, well, that's 2 terabytes, and I've never heard of the company. I can't speak for the HP NVMe drives. Have been good drives, but again, they're not rockets. I mean, this one says up to 7,400 megabytes per second. So maybe it is a rocket. Maybe I've misspoken, but $250 puts you right into that Western Digital price range. And this Western Digital Black is the same as the other unit, only it has a heatsink and it's specifically designed to work in PS5. The Seagate Barracuda is still more expensive than everybody else. I don't know why. I don't think it's that good. So there's some really good prices that are continuing long after Prime Day with regards to RAM and with regards to storage. In fact, the RAM I'm buying, I usually get a kit of 32 gig of DDR4, if I spell it correctly. And what you'll see me use a lot are the team group. But let me ask you a question. Would you rather pay $49 for 2 sticks of 16, or would you rather pay $105 for 2 sticks of 32? So I will usually go with 32 gig most of the time on desktop memory. Look, even Silicon Power is beating that price. They also make some really good memory. This is all 3200 speed RAM. It's good RAM. Under 50 bucks for 32 gigs. That's 2 sticks of 16 gigs each. DDR4 3200 speed. This is usually what I buy. When you see me building the computers here, this is the RAM you see me using. I was paying a little under $60 for it. Now it's down to just a penny under $55. And it's got the heat shields built into it. And that's my go-to RAM of choice personally. So I just want to put that out there, and there's links. Well, there aren't links for these products. However, if you use any of my Amazon, hold on, let me turn my HDMI. If you use any of my Amazon links in my video notes and search for the product within Amazon, I get credit for the sale. I make it, on a product that cheap, maybe 40 cents in commission, maybe 50 cents. And if that confuses you and you want to make a purchase from Amazon, you can email me and ask me to create a shortcut link for you if you want to make sure I get the commission from the sale. But individually, each individual purchase, generally speaking, doesn't pay me much. But added all together, well, they can add up to sometimes be more than what I make from YouTube. And the more YouTube is lowering the price they're paying, Amazon, it gets more and more popular. And it's starting to flip-flop the other way, where Amazon is paying me better than YouTube, and Amazon doesn't require any effort on my part. I don't do all this for Amazon. So, working smarter or working harder? Not exactly sure. Let me go over to my full screen here and see what's going on. Downloading 5%. Okay. Is that taking so long? Oh, it's a big cumulative update. What I've seen these updates do is it'll jump from 5% to like 100% for some reason. I've seen this where it's not updating properly. So we'll let that sit and continue, and then I will do what I can to answer your questions while we wait for this update to finish. And then I'll throw some drives in it. We'll go in the BIOS and see if we can figure that as a RAID 1 array, which is what I would recommend. Jason Wyrick said, I always use your link except for one cheap item the other day. I appreciate it, Jason. Just so we're clear, I have no idea who's making purchases. When I look at my earnings on Amazon, it shows me what was sold at what day and what time. and for how much, and based on that, how much commission they owe me for that sale. I don't see who bought it or where it's going. I don't know if it's a neighbor or somebody in Hawaii. I have no idea. I think my Amazon links will work universally worldwide now. I don't know. If you're watching in another country, you can try it. Then send me an email, let me know what you bought. Then I can look on my earnings list, see if I find it. But keep in mind, the earnings list is updated once a day. So everything I see today is what happened from yesterday and up to 30 days before. So if you make a purchase of something and you want to see if I got the commission and you're outside of the United States, you can drop me an email if you're curious and let me know if I see whatever the product is on the day you purchased it. I can confirm whether or not that's working. I think I've set it up. I'm just not sure yet. Edgar says, I never got your email. Email about what? Tom Long said, if I were you, I wouldn't tell Amazon or they might cut back on how much they pay you. Well, how much they pay me is based on how much I've sold, right? So it's not that Amazon would be cutting back. It's that I've sold more product or people have purchased, tens of thousands of dollars worth of product each month. And if that becomes hundreds of thousands of dollars, then of course the commission is commensurate with how much was sold. I mean, Amazon can almost not pay me less at this point. If I'm only making 1 or 2%, they'd have to make it into a fraction of a percent. So yeah, best we not talk about it or give them any ideas. Otherwise, what's the point? $4.99 from John Science Rock says he's really enjoying the discussions today. Right on. Thank you. Edgar says address. Edgar, I don't know if you're speaking in code, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So if you can tell me what the subject matter is about and what you were emailing me for and what you're expecting from me, I'm confused. Are you saying you sent me your address? I don't think people understand the sheer number of conversations I have with people through Facebook messaging and Twitter and email. And there's 3 different email accounts, plus what's going on with my customers, what's going on with potential sponsorship offers. So that when you say, how was that thing that I sent you the other day? I have no clue what you're talking about. You have to be very specific. How was the name item that I sent to you or we discussed on Tuesday, the 13th, or whatever it is, so I have some point of reference, or I can go back and look through the email and figure out what this is all about. You can help me to help you by just being clear. And if you're referring to anything, you can't hint at it. It's just not going to play out well for us. David Martinez says, Carrie, I do the same thing. I buy something on Amazon. I use your link. Well, thank you, David. I do appreciate it. As I mentioned, it's an anonymous way to support the channel. So I have no idea who's using it unless you tell me. And I do appreciate when you use it. It doesn't cost you any differently. It's just that a small commission of the total sale is kicked back to me once every 30 days. And then Amazon holds it for 30 days since people have a 30-day return window. They don't want to pay me a commission on an item that ends up getting returned. So if you buy something today, I'll receive a commission on it in about 60 days, whenever that once a month occurs, Edgar says, your email address, so I ask price for something. You're asking for my email address? You didn't get an email from me? I'm sorry. I have no idea what you're talking about. Chris Smith says, I used your Malwarebytes premium link and used it for 2 devices. Did you save money? And if so, how much? Because I'm not exactly sure what the discount is. I've gone through a commission junction for the Acronis discount and Malwarebytes discount, and it's not very clear to me what the discount is. Or is there a discount? they're showing me what a commission on the sale is, but I don't see how much the sale is. Isn't that bizarre? This is why I've avoided commission junction in the past. If there's a piece of software you think I should be getting a discount on for viewers, let me know and I'll look and see if it's on commission junction and I can apply for it. Douglas Burchell contributes $2. He says, it's a great show and great family here. I love the content. Well, we love having you, Douglas. Thanks for joining us and being a part of this community. Michael Lovell says, hello, Carrie and chat from Happy Valley, Oregon. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Glad to have you here. Jim KJ3N says, speaking of email, check yours. Okay, Jim. David Ice says save 15%. I know that's what it says. Curious, is that what you're getting? Until somebody actually uses it, I just don't know what the reality is. So I'm curious. Why did my screen go? Oh, it's okay. Email. Nick Caffrey sends $14.94 via PayPal. He says, great content, clearly communicated by a man who cares about what he does. Rare. I suppose it is these days. Oh, Jim. Okay. Yeah, I was going to get back to you about the... Jim's got a YouTube channel, and he's doing a great job with it. And, you know, we reviewed that Ace Magic laptop, and I thought maybe Jim might want to review it. And then he emailed me, and then I got pulled off in 7 different directions at the same time, as usual. Sometimes it helps, Jim, if you don't get a response in 2 or 3 days, just kick another email to me that says reminder. Telling me during a live show is pointless, because by the time I end this live show and the number of questions I'm going to get between now and the end of the show and the number of things I'm going to talk about is going to push your thought that you just reminded me about all the way to the back. And then once I've closed down the show, then I have to shut down the equipment, put the batteries on the charger. There's this whole process I have to go through so that we're ready for the next show, or that the equipment's going to be ready. So the best way would be, you know, if you don't hear from me in 2 or 3 days, just send an email that just says, hey, just a gentle reminder, you know, and that'll probably be the best way. It's been an exceptionally busy week. I don't think there's anything I could have done anyway this last week. It's been crazy. If you notice, there was no show on Tuesday or Wednesday, and that's because I didn't have time. And you know, if I am missing out on doing a show during the week, something must be going on that's important. So, but yeah, we definitely will need to discuss that, because I'd love to see your review on it. David Ice says he got Malware Bytes for $38.24, and it says $44.99 without the discount. So let's see, $4.49 would be 10%. So 15% would be another third of that. So it'd be about $7.50. That's 15%. Okay, so it's 15% off. Very good. Thank you for letting me know. Alan Linda says, I purchased that a couple of days ago. Right on. Well, I appreciate you, Alan. And it looks like Windows updates are still happening here. Mikeman wants to know, should I invest in DDR4 2933 RAM for my current desktop, or wait until I do a platform upgrade and make sure to get DDR4 3200 or DDR5? I don't know. It's like asking me if you should get dessert, and if so, should it be the ice cream or the cheesecake? These are questions you have to answer on your own. Nobody can answer these questions for you. You're going to have to make that decision for what best fits your particular wants, needs, desires, and budget, of which only you know the answers to it. Mark Jones contributes £2. He says, this is a little something in appreciation of your wisdom. Somebody thinks I'm smart.
I don't know who that is, but they got the wrong idea.
How dare you? How dare you? Thank you, Mark. Cheers, mate.
it done yet?
It has rebooted. Oh, no, no, it hasn't. I'm looking at an old feed. I see. My YouTube studio, for some reason, has been lagging. And so when I'm paying attention to the chat room, I'm seeing the YouTube studio feed, which showed the computer rebooting. But that was like 20 minutes ago. Looking at the actual feed, it does appear that the unit is stuck. So maybe we'll just do a unexpected reboot. Start, shut down, and restart. No idea what that was all about. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I didn't realize I was watching a delayed feed. Mark Jones says, I sent you a little something, Carrie. Is that an email, I'm guessing? Guess I can check my email while I'm waiting for these updates to install. Nothing in email at this point yet. Jim KJ3N said, at this point, I'd plan on DDR5, but that's me. So the problem with planning on DDR5, of course, is that the prices are likely, if they continue moving in the direction they're moving, if you're buying something you don't need today, you're going to pay more for it than waiting until you buy it to when you need it. So if you wait until you need DDR5, likely you will pay less for it than you would pay today. Of course, the market can go either way, but if trends continue, and every indication suggests they will continue at least through the end of the year, and I could be wrong, you could spend more money than you need to trying to be prepared. But if you wait until you actually need it, you could save some money. Not to mention any issues with warranty. You know, your warranty starts the day you buy it, so I wouldn't buy something and hold on to it until, so I was prepared for the future. You'll spend more for it and your warranty starts to tick. So 2 reasons not to do that. James Prezi with a $20 super chat. Thank you, James. James says, I tried to clone my HX90 mini PC drive to a new Samsung 980 Pro using the Samsung data migration software, and it failed twice. I'm going to use your discount in Acronis to clone the drive so I can continue setting up my mini PC. That's interesting. Wonder why it failed. Douglas says, funny camera woman. Hilarious.
I am hilarious. Someday you'll figure that out.
You're a pretty smart fella.
It'll make me sad.
You'll have to let me know how that works out, James. It never amazes me that people will not follow my steps, right? I do all these detailed videos, step by step. Here's how you do this. And they say, hey, I just tried cloning my drive and it didn't work. Then you find out, well, you didn't clone it the way I showed you, but you thought you were going to get the same results. Now, I'm all for people experimenting and trying it out on your own. And, look, when it does work, I don't hear about it, right? Typically, I only hear about things when they don't work. But I've never shown how to clone a drive with Samsung Magician. I've never made that video. And when I do it, because I'm paid and I'm in business, I need to use a paid piece of software that has support so I can get the job done, not being held accountable by the customer. So the great thing about Acronis, though, is it's more than just a cloning tool. It's a great backup tool. You can set it to automatically update your backup on a schedule, whatever suits your needs. You can make those backups external. You can put it up in the cloud. And you always have a cloning tool available to you. Usually people, when they do a clone, they think, I won't need to do this again for a long time. And then some friend or some situation arises that they never anticipated. And, they're doing another clone again. And Acronis is one of those pieces of software that can come in handy more often when you have it. I used to talk about, I would go to clients, especially in Sun City in the retirement communities, and they'd still be using like Net Zero or Juno dial-up. I'm like, this is still in business? You're still using dial-up? well, I don't use the internet for much, so I don't want to pay for broadband. Or I go, well, the reason I suspect you don't use the internet that much is because you have dial-up. It's like going over to somebody's place and they don't have a car. You say, how come you don't own a car? Well, I don't really go anywhere. Well, neither would I if I didn't own a car. It's sort of like manifesting your own destiny. I don't go anywhere, therefore I don't have a car, equates to I don't go anywhere because I don't have a car. If you had a car, you'd probably go more places more often. And much the same way, these people that were justifying keeping their free dial-up from Juno say, I don't use the internet for much. Why would you? It's discouraging and painful. Can you imagine trying to watch a YouTube video on dial-up? Good luck. So with a tool like Acronis, it comes in handy in so many different ways that you might say, well, I don't really think I need it. I just want to buy it, just want to use it for one clone and I don't want to use it ever again. But when you have it, you might realize just how much more you could use it now that it's an option for you. So something to think about anyway. Andy Kane says, dial-up makes me feel old. Yeah, and it should. Let's see. Ben Laird joining us from Scotland with a £2 super chat contribution. Right on. Thank you, Ben. Austin says, do they still offer dial-up? Well, it's been a couple of years since I've been on location at a customer, like, residential location since the pandemic. But, as of about 3 or 4 years ago, that was still people using it. I was surprised. So I imagine, why don't you try it? Let me know how that works for you. Wonder where I can find a modem. I can dial-up modem. Cyber Trails, yes. A local ISP here.
That's
back
what I
in
was
the day.
hired to support.
You were originally hired by the power company to support their ISP, their dial-up ISP.
Correct.
Whatever happened to Cyber Trails?
It was sold.
Sold off to who?
As of today, it's kind of new.
It's still around.
Yeah, it is.
What purpose does it serve? It's not dial-up anymore, is it?
No, it's probably-
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, I think they serve areas that are mostly underserved by broadband. Is it
Correct.
rural areas?
Yes.
Yeah. They were using like microwave dishes for a while, as I recall. Okay, we're going to try this update again. See if we have better luck this time. And Tim Teal says hello. Welcome in, Tim. What sort of speed would you get with dial-up? Well, I'd say 28.8, 33.6.
56K.
But the FCC never allowed a 56K connection over the phone. So 53K, and that's only receiving. Upload was still limited to 28.8, I think. So the whole 56K was actually a lie. You can Wikipedia that if you want to learn more about the details. Now you're making me feel old. Bikeman said his first internet provider was AOL. Oh, I got you beat.
Yeah.
I used
Actually, for many people.
CompuServe. That was, and then of course there was Prodigy.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Trying to think who the other one was, and there's one we're forgetting.
We're seriously dating ourselves.
Sounds like a nice date. Wonder why we're having issues with this particular update. It says 0%. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to worry too much about this update. I don't know what's going on, if it's Microsoft servers or what's happening there. But let's just move on. We can let that update in the background anyway. Let's go ahead and shut this down. It's Windows 11, Carrie. Gotta get my bearings straight. And then we'll go back full screen on camera 1. And I think camera girl needs to be put back to work. That's what I think.
I'm here.
You know what? I'm going to have to shut the computer off to do this, aren't I?
Yeah.
I did shut it off. I'm looking and the network lights on the back blink because of the potential for wake on LAN settings, and it led me to think I left the machine on. So with the machine powered off, lift up the lid here.
Cameras.
Oh, now you're going to boss me around?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll go over to close-up camera. Come on over. Now, I've been collecting 3.5-inch mechanical drives. I swear I get about 30 or 40 of them and I sell them for like 10 bucks a piece to get rid of them to somebody local. And then I end up building another stack. So I think I'm getting close to, well over 20, probably well on my way to 30. So Earthlink, there he is. K Cordius Technology contributes $2 and he mentions Earthlink.
Yeah, that's great. Forgot about that one.
So anyway, these came out of something. I think these came out of a NAS at some point when I wasn't using NAS drives back in the day. And these drive caddies, these little pins that go into the side of the drive and bend this back. There we go. Okay, so there's our one drive done. These are the Seagate 1 terabyte desktop drives. What's the build date on there? Oh, it's got a date code. I'm sure somebody can translate that. These are old. Okay, so this one is going to go in this way. In all the way. Same thing here. You want your SATA connector to be, you don't want this to cover up your SATA connector. I think that should be obvious, right? So it's important we get the direction correct. Or it may have an impact on the performance of your RAID. Okay, let's go here. And let's go here. And this one, I've got to look to see where the connector is. It's going to go in just the way I've got it. Push it down. It's seated. And that's it. I guess this piece can go back on. And now we get to configure it. Cool. All right. So I'm going to turn this back on. We're going to go back over to our HDMI input. And camera girl, you can take a break. Thank you.
Welcome.
When this fires up, I'm going to hit delete, 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 delete on the keyboard over and over and over again. And hopefully that's going to get us into the BIOS. It did. And I can't read it because it's too small. So I'm going to go full screen. Right click, full screen projection. There we are. Okay. I hope in here. Well, these are 2.5 gig each, these LAN connections. That's good to know. It's information on our internal NVMe drive on this mini PC. Security, boot. Onboard PCIe. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Monitor, don't care about. CPU config, I don't care about. Where is our SATA drive settings? Hard drive configuration. Okay. We have 2 matching drives. That's just for security. Where is the configuration? This isn't good. So they sold us a device to use for NAS. Look at Fun 1, Fun 2, and Fun 3. That stands for. Okay. Seems to be for storage, but I can disable the boot ROM for the LAN. I never boot from the LAN. RAM configuration, graphics configuration, SATA configuration, SATA controller, auto shutdown, RAS support. Okay, well, we can enable or disable the SATA ports, I guess for security reasons. SATA controller does not show a RAID ability. Well, that doesn't seem ideal. Tell me this is a NAS device and not give us a RAID controller. You know, I'm thinking when I get really quiet. There's a lot going on in my head when I get quiet.
There's smoke coming out of your ears.
Yeah, that's me thinking. Nothing. I see nothing. So I guess I would have put it here. Huh. Just check it. I wouldn't have put it in there, but you never know. Want to be thorough. Of course, this has TPM on it, so we're Windows 11 compliant. This is where it should be. Where was this under? FCH common options. Oh, yeah, duh. Whatever that means. SATA configuration option. Nothing for RAID. Oh, a UART. Yeah, you want a serial port? XGBE, whatever that is. Enable or disable. Oh, that's the Ethernet controller. Okay. Okay. Well, it looks like we're going to have to do a software RAID. That's going to be my guess. Zvi says maybe RAID software that you can configure during the installation of NAS software. Well, it's not promoted that way. It's promoted as basically file sharing in Windows. But yes, if you wanted to put on free NAS or, have the unit operate strictly as a NAS, that's clearly an option. The concept, the way that it's promoted, is that you can use this as your desktop mini PC while at the same time running a network attached storage across your network. So it can do two jobs at the same time. To dedicate this much power and memory strictly for NAS only is way overkill. So there's probably a way, I don't think I've ever done it this way before, but if we go back over to the HDMI input, full screen, how would we do this? Check. Start with data, continue, check, select browsing. Let's just cheat a little bit here. And we'll say set up RAID in Windows 11. Go into disk management and create a VHD. Virtual hard drive. Okay. Okay. Let's give it a shot. Go to disk management. Those drives are wiped out, completely wiped out. Actions. Shaded. Select something first. Create a virtual hard disk. So maybe I have to format the drives first. I have never set up a RAID this way. I would use a proper RAID controller or RAID configuration in the BIOS. So this is obviously going to be a software RAID. Browse virtual disk files. Oh, so it wants to create a file. It's a very different way to do this. Okay, well, that wasn't really what I had in mind. So I guess we can create a virtual hard drive on each drive and then attach them together to appear as one. That's really clunky. Huh. Well, the bottom line is, as we can see from the screenshot here, that we have essentially put in two hard drives like you would in any other desktop computer. They would require partitioning and formatting. You'd have drive D and drive E. What I was trying to do was to attach these two drives so they would be seen as one, and doing it the other way, I've never done that before. I don't really like the whole concept of it. And I'm a little disappointed that we don't have the RAID controller in the BIOS. If you're going to advertise the device as being a NAS, then the very least you need to do is have a RAID controller in the hardware somewhere in the BIOS that I can enable that RAID and pick which drives I'm going to have in the array and what kind of an array I want. In this case, because there's only 2 drives, we just need a RAID 0 option and a RAID 1 option. Overall, it's a pretty simple request, and this drive or this mini PC falls short on that. What I could do, obviously, is I could just format one of the drives and then share it over the network and then just schedule a task to, at a certain time every day or whatever frequency I want, synchronize the files from the one drive to the other drive and keep the other drive off the network. So basically I've created a RAID 1, except a RAID 1, it's always updating instantly every time a change is made versus waiting to the end of the day, because then you have a potential, if it crashes at the end of the day, the drive fails, and your last synchronization was last night, you've lost whatever you've created for the day. So that's not an ideal solution for me. Terrell mentions Windows storage pools. Once again, I've read about Windows storage pools. I've never used them. I'm not a fan of that type of configuration, but Gary Tatum said he was reading on the Aoostar store online, and it says you have to install NAS software to take advantage of it. Well, I mean, you don't have to, but if you want a more traditional NAS with NAS features, then you'd want FreeNAS or some Linux-based bootable media to boot to. And you'd have to do the same thing as we already talked about with the router. In the meantime, as far as being able to share over the Windows network, this is almost perfect if they just allowed for a RAID configuration in the BIOS, which many PCs do. It's not uncommon these days. And I am shocked and disappointed that that item does not exist, telling me that this is a NAS and then not selling it as a NAS, that I have to go and do something from another manufacturer for this to function as it's advertised, is disappointing. I feel it's a little misleading in the advertising, if I'm honest. It's such a simple fix. It's such an easy thing to have put a motherboard in here that has that RAID capability in the BIOS. I don't understand why they did this. It's sort of like they went halfway and said, you do the rest. As a mini PC, it seems well outfitted with regards to processor and upgradability. We obviously have the ability to upgrade the RAM, the Wi-Fi card, and the storage very easily. And that second M.2 port is also nice to see. I guess we can run Crystal Disk Mark on it and see what kind of performance we're getting. So let's do that while I'm thinking about it. Go over here to HDMI input, back to the screen. Let's close this window and bring up the utilities flash drive. Now, with regards to having a mini PC that has room for 2 internal 3.5-inch drives, forget the NAS. Like, that would be more honest marketing, and I can certainly see an appeal to that for some users. People that, want to have a 20 terabyte drive that you couldn't have on an SSD, for example. And it would be much more affordable. Okay, what was I doing? I'm going to go here, over to utilities. We'll grab Harry's Windows 10 optimizer, and we'll throw VLC on here like I just do. Oops. That out. Still disk mark. PC testing software. Still disk mark. It's a very responsive little mini PC. So I got no complaints with its function as a mini PC, but I do take issue with calling this a NAS when it's, if you want to do that, you could make any computer a NAS. I mean, you could say that about any mini PC if you want to attach external storage and then load up NAS software for it. So it just seems like it's a bit of a stretch here in the marketing. Feels just a little bit misleading. See what kind of numbers we're going to get out of this internal storage here. Is this Gen 3, Gen 4? I don't know. David Dix at Rock City PC says if you right click on the drive within disk management, you can create a stripe. It'll ask you what other drive you want to use. You can select it to make a RAID 0. Yeah, but I don't want a RAID 0. I want a RAID 1. RAID 0 seems pointless unless I was trying to add faster mechanical storage to my mini PC for me to use and only me to use. If I want to share it over the network, RAID 0 does us no benefit except for expanding our capacity. But then it means we also have no backup. So I would want a RAID 1. But it certainly explains the price. This is a very inexpensive mini PC, even if you took the NAS part out of it. Sarge Tech says instead of a NAS, it's a NOPE. Well, it's not a NOPE in the sense of whether or not it's useful or well built or adequately equipped. It's really about how they're marketing it. I'm taking issue with the marketing. So at 2000 maximum read speed, that's a pretty darn slow NVMe drive. That's about the speed of a budget Gen 3 NVMe drive, which again does explain the low price point the unit comes in at. Sarge Tech said this machine came out in April of this year. Yeah, so I guess it depends what you're looking for out of device. If you wanted to turn this into a NAS and you wanted to download something like FreeNAS and, boot off of FreeNAS and make this a standalone NAS unit, it's fully designed for that. Same is true with a software router. If you wanted to turn this into a soft router, you could download like pfSense and use this as your software router. But these all require some pretty significant technical ability. And as a hobby box, if you're someone who likes to tinker, might be a fun little project. But for business use or for everyday use, there's really no benefit outside of a normal mini PC, other than the fact that you can add up to 2 3.5-inch drives, which you might personally find useful if you're like me and you've got mechanical drives laying around and you can't afford a solid state drive, or you need a solid state drive of a larger capacity than is currently available, then obviously going to a mechanical drive is much more affordable, might even be something you already have. And obviously your input and output on the data are going to be much slower than a solid state drive, but also much, much cheaper. So it is a bit of a sacrifice, but one that you wouldn't have on a normal mini PC, literally any other mini PC that I'm aware of, except if you go with an external USB storage drive, which of course is going to make it even slower potentially. Maybe not. I suppose USB 3 is going to handle the maximum read and write speed of a mechanical drive regardless, so I don't think there'd be a performance degradation, but it would take up more desk space. Mr. Lottech says it can be both Proxmox VE, pfSense, and OpenNAS at the same time. But again, you'd have to have the technical know-how to know how to do that. So as a tinkerer at home looking for a fun little project, absolutely. As a business person looking to sell and support machines, there are better devices to use for routers. There are better devices to use for network appliances. There are better devices to use for network attached storage. This is really sort of a poor man's solution that it is not adequate in performance. It is not adequate in regards to its form factor. It's not superior there. It does have a superior amount of processing power in RAM compared to a router or NAS unit in general. Its primary function appears to be 80% mini PC, and then it seems to me that the NAS option and software router function, a little kind of throw-in marketing gimmick as far as I'm concerned. I'm not exactly sure you're going to attract a very big audience who would buy this as a project box to do that kind of work, because the people that would know how to do that do not make up a very large section of computer owners overall. All right, so yeah, the NVMe drive in there is pretty basic. Let's go back to disk management. Let me take a look here. Create and format hard disk partitions. Don't necessarily want to, do I want to do that? Or, see, right click. Initialize properties. They call that storage spaces. Storage spaces. Again, I have never done this because to me, this is like what a garage mechanic or a home hobbyist would use. We don't use this in any professional business. Create a new pool. All right, first time for everything here, Carrie. Unformatted drives. Okay, this is what I wanted. Select the drives to create a storage pool. Create pool. Okay, but it doesn't. Storage space, drive loader D, NTFS. Resiliency, two-way mirror. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, well, this is it. Create storage space. Well, that wasn't too bad. Uncle Carrie learned something new today that I'll never use. But there you have it. Now we can use this as a proper NAS because we have a storage space. Let's see. Storage space. Is it formatted? Looks good. Total capacity should be 1 terabyte because the other drive is in mirror mode, so it's invisible. Yep, that's what I wanted. And then what we would do is we'd go over to sharing and we would share this on the network so that other people on our network and potentially even give access to it outside the building if we wanted to, all using built-in Windows networking tools. Okay, so saved at the last minute. I have never ever done that before. And I don't know any pros or cons other than it's software based. But the idea here, camera one, the idea here is that you can be using this. Say you've got a home office or a small office, you have a couple employees, and you need to be working on the same files independently but together. So in other words, there might be PDF files or documentation, receipts, things like that, customer calls. You need to pull the receipt up or pull up their documentation to whatever the business is you're conducting with that customer. You want to get up to speed on it. All the files are on the network drive. So then you would map a drive letter on all the other PCs on the network to go to a specific folder or to go to the whole drive, how you choose to do it, whether or not you choose to password protect it or only allow certain users to access it. Is all customizable in any Windows share, and it's been that way forever, at least since Windows 5. Anyway, all right, now, in that regard, it does not impact you if you're using this computer to conduct your own work. You're on the phone with a different customer. Your employee's on the phone with a different customer, and you've got another employee doing work for another customer. You can all be accessing the storage media here without it impacting anybody else. The person using this computer would never even know what's happening. If this person using this computer needs to restart the computer or this computer crashes, then obviously everybody that's accessing the network attached storage at that time will lose their connection until the machine boots back up. And if you didn't save what you were working on, well, I suppose as long as you haven't closed, let's say Microsoft Word, you're working on a document, you haven't saved it yet, and you're in the office in the next room over, as long as you don't close the document, you can wait for the mapped drive to become available and then choose to save it. On the other hand, if you were in a file and that file was open at the time the machine got rebooted and the open file was on this machine, it's quite possible that that file becomes unavailable and you have to close it out and reopen that file again, potentially losing any work you would have done if you hadn't saved it when the machine unexpectedly went offline. So, these aren't typical problems we have with a regular NAS, but this is not pretending to be a regular NAS. And it will function in that way with certain caveats and restrictions and differences to a network attached storage appliance. So overall, it was very easy to create the storage pool. I would say even easier than a regular network attached storage appliance once I realized how to do that. Thank you to Rock City PC for that little tip. And as to how reliable or how useful it will be, kind of depends on the expectations and needs of the user. This kind of networking really doesn't do well when you have more than 10 people on the network. Once you exceed 10 people, things start to get a little bit shaky, a little unstable. That's where you really want to go for something bigger than a peer-to-peer network. With a network attached storage appliance, you can have, 70, 80 people all in it at the same time. So we don't have the limitations of Windows peer-to-peer networking, which is limited in order to ensure a consistent level of reliability and consistency with performance. So these are all things to keep in mind. This is not intended to replace a network attached storage appliance in an office where work is getting done. And well, you could get away with it for some time. Those limitations, including auto updates that might, if you haven't configured the machine to reboot outside of normal hours, could potentially reboot in the middle of a workday, and that would not be pleasant. All of that, of course, can be configured, but you've got to be smart enough to know to do it. I know this because I've been working with network attached storage devices for, it's been 2 decades, if not close to 2 decades. And I know the routines, but if you've never used one before, you're going to learn the hard way. First time it disrupts your work or you lose some work. So for those in the know, or for those who aren't doing anything too critically important, is a fun little project box. It's a great price for what you're getting. I will say, now that I see how to create the array and how that's going to work, for this price, no complaints. Even if you don't use this functionality or you just want to use it as local storage, it's still a great deal. The software router part of it, I'm not on board with it. But, again, as a project box, it's not a major investment. And as far as a network attached storage device or a router goes, you won't find one appliance that does either of those tasks with a processor this big. So it's more than capable. It's equipped very, very well to handle those tasks compared to a dedicated appliance. So I guess what I'm saying is there's pros and cons, and that should be expected. It's just not normal. It's intended to be different. It's intended to offer you an alternative that might be more ideal in your need for how you intend to use it or what your budget is compared to a traditional NAS. I mean, size-wise, it's about the size of a typical NAS. If anything, it's a little taller, I suppose, and a lot shallower depth-wise, than let's say a Synology or a QNAP. On the other hand, with Asus and QNAP now having NVMe NASs, QNAP's NAS is like this big. It's also $600 with no drives in it for the 4 M.2 drive NAS that QNAP sells. $600, and you can go and buy, say, 4 terabyte, get those Team Group 4 terabyte NVMe drives, those Gen 3 drives, about $200 a piece after sales tax. So you got $2, $4, $6, $800 in drives, $600 for the unit plus sales tax, another $60. So we're somewhere around $14 to $1,500. This is a fraction of that. But then, of course, we're using mechanical drives, which are cheaper. We only have 2 of them instead of 4 of the more expensive M.2. See what I'm saying? It's not inherently bad. It's offering an option with limitation at a much cheaper price point. And if you're willing to make those sacrifices for that price, I just want you to be prepared for what you're buying. I want you to have proper expectations on, if you decide to buy one of these, what it is you're getting and how it would be used. So Anyway, what do you guys think? Gary says it makes you wonder how recoverable it would be if you ran into some kind of Windows crash. Well, Gary, you would never, ever consider a NAS or a RAID configuration as a backup. Backups are still required, and you would always want to have some sort of schedule where you're taking all the data on your array and putting it onto some external storage, whether that's in the cloud or locally or ideally both, on a regular basis. So if anything were to happen, like let's say, for example, there's nothing wrong with the RAID array, but your power brick died, and maybe it's not even the manufacturer's fault. Maybe there was a big storm that rolled in, there was a power outage, and it spiked the brick, and now your machine will not turn on, and in fact, could even be damaged. So the data is still on the drives. However, you can't access it. Let's say, for example, somebody comes into your building late at night when you're not around and they steal this, they take it. There's your data. Let's say there's a fire at the building and everything burns down and it's all lost. Or at the very least, the fire sprinklers in the building go off and just saturate everything with water while you leave the unit on 24/7. Your data's gone. Let's say somebody accidentally clicks on a virus and ends up infecting the machine, you get ransomware, your data's gone. What I'm trying to tell you is there's so many more ways for you to lose your data. It would be profoundly foolish, and I mean profoundly foolish, to not back up anything you considered important because, well, I've got a RAID array. There's so many more reasons people lose their data that recovery should never be a discussion other than restoring backups. Any other form of recovery is a failure of proper planning on your part. So my attitude through the years was once very sympathetic to people, but now no more. We all know better now. We know we're supposed to make backups. It's easy to do. And if you couldn't be bothered to take the time to make a copy of the data you claim is so important, I'm not really interested in you needing a recovery. Because quite honestly, you did that to yourself. You created your own misery, and I want no part of it. I'm busy enough. I have enough stress in my life. That is completely and totally avoidable. And the fact that, Brian Cometa over there at $300 data recovery is busier than ever when he should be like the Maytag repairman. If people made backups like they're supposed to, he should not have a business that's sustainable. And yet, as far as I know, he's busier than ever. People still continue to obstinately avoid or negate the desire to make a backup or the necessity. They think that it's not going to happen to me, or I'll do it tomorrow, or I can't be bothered, or I don't know how, so therefore I won't do it. Whatever the excuse is, it's inexcusable. And so if you're in a position that you need data recovery without a backup, you did that to yourself. You chose that path. You're not a victim. You did that to yourself. Just so we're clear. You conscientiously made a decision to take a risk. And when that risk did not pay off, it's like you put all your life savings at a roulette table, you put it all on black and the ball fell on red and you just lost everything. And now you don't know how you're going to eat tonight because you literally put every last penny. It's hard to feel sorry for you. Patrick Rousseau says it'd be a perfect home theater PC for media hoarders like me. You know what? That's a good point, Patrick. It absolutely would be a wonderful home theater PC because, number one, it's quiet. It doesn't have a lot of blinking, distracting lights on it or anything like that. And the fact that you could put a couple of 18 or 20 terabyte drives in here, it can store all your media. Absolutely. Yeah. You've got a HDMI out and a display port out. So you can plug the HDMI right into the back of a television. You're ready to go. You could use Plex, something like that. It's very well equipped as a home theater PC, well overpowered, I'd say, for that job. But now that you mention it, the idea that you can have your entire storage library right here rather than externally on a NAS or something like that, it would suit that purpose very well. Yeah. Jim KJ3N says it makes you wonder when someone leaves a review of $300 data recovery, mentioning they used the service more than once. I've talked about that. They're one of the highest rated, most reviewed data recovery companies in the world. If you look, they have a ton of reviews on Yelp and on Google Reviews. Sometimes you'll see a review that said, this is the second time I've used their service. And you're thinking, it's one thing to have to use the service. It's another thing to be a repeat customer. Essentially, all Brian is doing for you is making the backup you couldn't be bothered to make. Only he's doing it for you when it's too late for you to make it. And it's a very time-consuming and very expensive form of backup. But teach their own. You know, somebody wants to keep bringing, like it'd be one thing if somebody was a computer technician like myself. I have a customer whose drive failed and they want to know if I can get the data back. And I would say, well, I can send it off to this company, $300 data recovery for you. And then I leave a review. My customer's drive was recovered or whatever, and they did a great job and kept me informed the whole time. Just like the last time. Makes sense if the last time was a completely different and unrelated customer who also didn't have a backup. And it would make sense for me to keep referring my data recoveries to $300 data recovery in that way, because I know they're good and I know they're affordable compared to data recovery companies in general. Like nobody even comes close to them. They've been in business a long time. And Brian Cometa, the owner, he's very transparent and very open about what the process is, and pricing structure is 25% of what most companies will charge you for that, like data recovery places like OnTrack and Drive Savers. They're very expensive. So when you see somebody writes that review and says, this is my second time using them, and it's just a regular customer sign, why they would choose such an expensive and slow form of backup. And that's assuming he's even able to recover the data. Not all drives are recoverable. If, for example, the platter inside of the mechanical drive gets scratched, damaged, cracks, or shatters, nobody in the world can recover that. Paul1961 says hello. Hey, welcome in, Paul. I think that is going to wrap it up for us for today. Douglas mentions that directions would have been nice. Yeah, nobody includes directions anymore. And again, the way that their documentation comes in from these Chinese companies is usually very poorly written. So that's why I make the videos. Consider this video your directions. And I want to thank those of you who contributed during today's video. So a shout out once again to K Cordius Technology, Ben Laird, and James Prezi, and Douglas Burchell. Thanks also go to Mark Jones, John Science Rocks, Paul O'Brien, Mark Gaines, Andy Woodridge, Charles Mandola, Roy Starman, Frankie B, Planet Cryos, Victor Callender, Colin Hunt, Paul O'Brien, and the first contribution before the show started from Sarge Tech. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel so I can continue to bring you independent reviews on independent subject matter that we want to talk about. Thanks to Aoostar for submitting this unit for us to review. I'm going to check messages. Oh, Frankie B sent $50 via Zelle. Thank you, Frankie B. Chris Smith sent an Amazon gift card. For $20. He said he wanted a suggestion for a mini PC for gaming, and I'm like, well, I couldn't tell you. It depends on the game. And he mentioned the game Terraria. I've never heard of it. Anyway, she ended up telling him that she saw the specs on the Minis Forum UM773 Lite mini PC that I reviewed here, which is an AMD Ryzen 7 7735 with Windows 11, DDR5, 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage, and has USB 4. And that's a lot more power than you were telling me that she needed for that game, but that should take care of it for a number of years anyway, including other games she might have interest in the time ahead. He sends a $20 Amazon gift card. So again, Chris, thank you for that. I appreciate you. And thanks for following up. $30 from Robert Barnes says, please apply toward more informative, practical, witty, one-of-a-kind programming. Thank you. Something misspelled here. And that's from Robert Barnes. Thank you, Robert. Paul O'Brien also sent a $10 Amazon gift card. He says, thanks again for tonight's educational and informative stream. Have you managed to set up an affiliate link with the United Kingdom and Germany? So whenever we make a purchase, you should benefit from it. I think my links now will automatically convert. So you'd have to try it and let me know if it works for you. I'm not sure if I've set that up correctly or not. You say that, but yeah, but nobody, as far as I know, has tried it. I don't see, well, I haven't looked since you set it up to see if any purchases have been made in other countries. But the idea is that the same link should work worldwide. I shouldn't have to make a link for each country, which is what you used to have to do. Now, what do they call that? One link or something? But the links don't look any different. So I don't know. No idea. But I just want to say thanks again for those contributions, and also to Mark Gaines for the Amazon gift card and Nick Caffrey for the PayPal contribution. I think I got everybody. A shout out to our good friend Peter Laycock out there in Scotland, who I'm sure will watch this content later. I always give him a special shout out, say hello. And our friend John Jack Wilson, haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's still watching quietly, maybe. I hope he's okay. I get a little concerned when I haven't heard from people in a while. And of course, my thanks to you guys, all my friends in blue and all my members who support the channel. Ah, there's Bill Wicken, says he's enjoying the Asus Mini PC. Right on. Good to hear from you. I'm glad to know that that's working out for you. And if you're a user that has no blue or green in your name, it's because I haven't turned you into a moderator, which is done over time. If I get to recognize your participation in the chat room on a regular basis, and you're a kind person, you come across as kind in the chat room, over time I recognize that and I turn you blue. It doesn't really mean anything other than it tells me you've been a regular here. If you see a gold badge next to somebody's name, whether it's in blue or green, that means they're paying $9.99 a month to help support the channel. And I get about half of that. It's all said and done. And that helps me to be able to afford to buy some of the things that I need. You know, if I replace one of the camcorders and try the Sony, it's $2,700. So I won't make that in a year off, you know, $10 a month memberships that I get $5 off. But I'm also keeping an eye on eBay for used units, and I don't necessarily know that I need it. This camera's fine. I'm just curious how a Sony camcorder might compare with video quality. Camera girl, thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
Well done. Okay. And yeah, to my members and moderators, thank you so much. For the folks who are not members or moderators yet, I hope you continue to come back and continue to be a part of this amazing community we've got here. Remember that the community is very knowledgeable. So if you ever have any questions, it's not just me answering the questions. We have some very helpful, knowledgeable people in our community that are here regularly, that are always more than happy to offer an opinion or what they believe to be the solution to your question or the answer to your question. So definitely don't dismiss the value of the quality of the answers coming from our community members. Many of them are smarter than I am, and more experienced in certain areas than I am. So absolutely take advantage of it. And I think have I thanked everybody? I think I got it all done. Thank you again for hanging out with me this Friday. I hope you have a safe and wonderful weekend. I do not know yet if I'm broadcasting over the weekend or not. It's kind of as a time permits kind of thing. And maybe Might be. So be sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so you can be made aware anytime I go live. You can follow me on Twitter. You can friend me on Facebook. I always post before I go live on Facebook and Twitter. So that's another way to be made aware of it. And I always make live videos every Friday at 1:00 p.m. Pacific time. And I always do private members only videos every Monday at 1:00 Pacific time. Those are the official shows. Anything else that occurs any other day or at any other time, those are just sort of bonus. And because I've had so much content and the contributions have enabled me to essentially stack up on a bunch of stuff I want to review, I've got my work cut out for me for at least the next month anyway. So thank you again for being a part of it, for being a part of the show, for being a part of the community. And thank you for your participation in the chat for those of you.
Don't forget to thank me for the thumbnail.
Oh, and thank Camera Girl for the amazing thumbnail used in today's video, of course. All right, that'll wrap it up for me for today. I'll see you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now. And now I have to find an outro. Which one should I use? I think we're going to go simple. Bye for now.